Thank you.
All right, we are officially recording. Sally, do you want to introduce for the recording purposes? I know we've gotten started, but do you want to go ahead and introduce, or do you want me to just keep going?
Just keep going. It's fine. I'll add information onto the Facebook posts. So.
Perfect. All right, so let's just keep going here. Right now, my name is Jocelyn Williams, and we are just diving into talking about the infant developmental sequence. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that you can have this. It's just fun sometimes to have a visual. Okay. All right. Can everybody see that? Okay. We've got the PowerPoint up. Make that nice and big for you. All right. So let's go ahead and dive in. So again, my name is Jocelyn Williams. I am the founder of Neurolly Solutions Incorporated, also known as Neurolly. And so Neurolly provides a movement-based educational approach to equipping the brain for life. So the work of Neurolly is based on the infant developmental sequence. Every human infant was designed to go through a simple process that would equip the foundational levels of the brain. This part of the brain is responsible for all of our automatic functions, for bonding, for emotional regulation, focus, sensory processing, and so much more. And we'll dive into that as we get further along here, okay? Now, the developmental sequence for infants really is as simple as A, B, and C, but the impact is profound. So what exactly is the infant developmental sequence? Now, there's so much more to explore, but in a short webinar, I'm just going to give you a synopsis. Please write down your questions, and I will be happy to answer any questions that you have after I finish this presentation, which will only be about 5 minutes, okay? So let's begin. From birth, infants need to be on their tummies, hold on to your seatbelts, approximately 50% of a 24-hour period. We like to call this tummy all the time. Sometimes I hear that, oh, tummy time, 2 minutes, 10 minutes is enough. 2 to 10 minutes is not enough tummy time. Tummy time should be the baby's default position. Baby should be up in arms for feeding, bathing, loving, snuggling, but then the default position should be back on the tummy. Okay, so A represents A for all the time, okay? B, tummy all the time will lead to tummy crawling, which includes the belly button being flat on the ground. So B for belly button. So the belly button is flat on the ground and the baby is moving forward. This form of movement is very similar to an army crawl, but not exactly. Now here's a tip. If a baby doesn't need mittens, they do not need socks. And when a baby is engaging in tummy crawling, all a baby needs is a comfortable onesie and a safe floor to crawl around on, okay? So B, belly button on the floor. You want the baby to be doing a tummy crawl, a cross lateral movement with their belly button down on the ground, okay? Now let's move to C. At approximately 6 to 12 months, babies need an ample amount of time to creep on hands and knees. So C represents creep. Now notice the position of the baby. The baby is up on all fours and the belly button is no longer touching the ground. Babies should continue creeping until their creep has developed into an efficient cross-lateral movement. Okay, so C is creeping on hands and knees. Okay, now, when an infant engages in the developmental sequence, they are given equal access and opportunity to be equipped for life. Here are just a few examples. 1, a baby who is bonded to their primary caretaker. 2, a child who is socially and emotionally equipped to have healthy peer interactions. 3, a student who is able to learn well. And finally, an adult who has the strength needed to make a positive global impact. And yes, those activities, tummy time, tummy crawling, hands and knees creeping, all prepare the foundational levels of the brain, which, how can I explain it? It's very similar. Think of a house built on sand. That house is not going to last very long if it's built on sand, right? A storm is going to come, house is going to be washed away. That house needs to be built on a very solid rock, on a strong foundation. So when the baby engages in the infant developmental sequence, the foundational level of the brain is being prepared so that when the cortex is, when they can access their cortex, they have a strong, solid foundation to do all of these things and much more, okay? So in summary, the developmental sequence for infants is as simple as A, B, and C, tummy all the time, tummy crawling, excuse me, A, tummy all the time, B, belly button flat on the ground, and C, hands and knees creeping. And when they go through this process before they begin to walk, okay, the impact is so profound. Why? Because the developmental sequence is not a man-made program. This is a process that was designed to truly equip the brain for life. Okay, so at Neurolly, we work with infants, we work with children, we work with students, and we work with adults, okay? Our process is very, very simple, okay? We set up for those mamas who are not ready to come out with their babies, we can set up a video assessment or an in-person assessment with our developmental movement consultant, the baby, and the primary caretaker. Once we do the assessment, the next step is training. Your developmental movement consultant will review the results of the assessment with the primary caretaker, and then we will provide training in the elements of the developmental sequence the baby needs, okay? Then the primary caretaker will be given a daily movement plan and support protocols to ensure that their precious baby has equal access and opportunity to complete the infant developmental sequence. Okay, now for those that have older children, students and adults, we do neurodevelopmental movement, okay? And this pathway is based on neuroplasticity. When given the right triggers, the brain has the ability to change. So in other words, there is a second chance. So if a baby is already 5 months old, or they're already 8 months old, or they're already 18 months old, and they've missed part of the infant developmental sequence, not a problem. We can always go back and replicate it, okay? And so we're gonna move away. I'm gonna stop sharing, and then I'd love to answer your questions about the infant developmental sequence. But if you have any personal questions or are interested in connecting with me on a personal level for your child, here's my contact information. My name is Jocelyn Williams. My phone number is 317-936-6797. My email is jwilliams@nsibrain.com. And of course, you can find me on social media at Neurolly Solutions. So as I begin to stop sharing my screen here, I just want to encourage everyone. Your baby needs lots of movement. A, tummy time all the time. B, tummy crawling with the belly flat down on the ground. And C, hands and knees creeping, all before they begin to walk. They need to go through that process before they begin to walk in order to give them equal access and opportunity to equip the brain for life. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and tell me, let's see, let's go ahead and start my video. Here we are. All right, so what did you hear that you liked or that went, aha moments, or a question that you have based on the developmental sequence?
So what do you do if like your baby doesn't particularly like tummy time that much?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we will assess the baby to figure out why they don't like tummy time. Usually, typically, there's an organic reason why they don't like to be on their tummies. And once those reasons are fixed or resolved, then they go on their tummies just fine. Some issues might be a tongue tie, okay? Or they might be having acid reflux, excuse me. And so when we need to, we'll also pull in a lactation consultant, someone that can help with that. Kathy Thomas is a great resource for that if we have any concerns if a baby has a tongue tie. So if a baby is not happy on their tummy, there's typically a reason for it. We like to assess the baby, try to figure out what it is, get that resolved so that they want to be on their tummies. Great question.
Could chiropractic be necessary if they don't like? Would that be another option that for if they don't like tummy time, could it possibly be due to needing a chiropractic adjustment?
Absolutely. If there's something structurally going on, we often will have our babies get a little chiropractic adjustment that really helps. I had a baby come in to me, baby was like this, and I said, this is not okay. There's something structurally going on here. The head was tilted to the side, and we had Dr. Kyle Peacock go ahead and make an adjustment, and baby's head straightened out, and he was much more happier on his tummy. So yes, that is another reason. Great question.
I had a quick question. Excuse me. At what age approximately were you thinking they should be able to kind of do the army crawl? Excuse me.
Good question. Yep. So we typically, every baby's different. And so we like our babies to go at their pace. Okay. And so first and foremost, we want them to be on their tummies and be nice and comfortable there. And they should automatically begin to, so when they're on their tummies, they're going to automatically lift up, right? And start lifting their head. And you'll put a little toy in front of them just out of their reach. They're going to start grabbing for that toy. And then they're going to start grabbing and grabbing and grabbing. And soon enough, they are going to be tummy crawling around. So typically somewhere between 2 and 5 months old, we like to see movement toward tummy crawling, if not tummy crawling already. If it's a little bit later, that's okay. We don't want to rush them through their developmental sequence. But if they are not on their tummies, it will be much more difficult for them to tummy crawl, right? Why is that? Because when they are on their tummies, they are actually engaging in little tiny infant patterns. These little patterns, even in the uterus, even before baby was born, they were going through these little, we see little tiny patterns, okay? Those little patterns were triggering, okay, their brain development. And so it's the input, the patterns of the input into the central nervous system, and it gives what the baby needs in order to do the tummy crawling. And if you saw some of the patterns that that the baby's engaged in, like the cross pattern or the homolateral pattern, it mimics their tummy crawl and their hands and knees creeping, so they need to be engaged in that. Now, for whatever reason, if we have a baby that cannot be on their tummy, maybe choice, whatever have you, we will actually teach the families those patterns so that the babies can have the input they need into the central nervous system in order to be able to do their tummy crawling and then eventually their hands and knees creeping.
Okay. Yeah. She creates a U shape all the time. We're like, put your feet down. She's got all four going at the same time, but it is very cute. But she can't put the feet down to move forward, but it's like a constant U shape. Right. But she's getting there.
She's getting there. And does she do tummy time?
Oh yeah, yeah. Not as much as all 50% of the time though. Now that when you said that, I was like, oh no. but we do every day. Yeah, she's
good. And after today, she'll do more. And so a big tip to help her not to be in that U shape is to actually make sure there's not a blanket hindering her feet from gripping. Okay. No, she doesn't need any socks. A onesie is more than enough. Just put her in a onesie. Make sure the room temperature, her environment, the temperature in the environment is nice and comfortable for her. But you want her to receive as much sensory input to her body as possible. And so being in a onesie and being able to engage with her environment is going to help her. You can also begin to do little massages on her legs and say, hey, this is your right leg. You have such a beautiful right leg. Rub it with different cloths just so she can get that feeling of sensory input and just kind of help her along. But my guess, how old is she?
She's 10 weeks old.
Yeah, she's got plenty of time. Yep, she's doing great. You're doing great with her.
Neuro reflex, that's like she will cry sometimes until you put your hand there and she's like, yes, I can push and move. So I can tell she wants to get going.
She wants to get going. Yeah, that's wonderful. Okay.
So Jocelyn, other than being on the floor, would you consider laying on a parent's chest tummy time, or not really?
That was my question.
Yeah, great question. Not really. That's more comfort and snuggling, and absolutely babies need that. And that question usually leads into, what do I think about baby wearing? Okay. And so I think baby wearing for an infant that's just born is so important. That baby needs to be so comfortable and cozy in your arms. If you're going out and about, you want to wear your baby. It's much better than being in a stroller. However, baby should not be warm all day long. Baby needs to be on his or her tummy, again, 50% of the time. You might wear them to bond with them, spend time with them, love them, and then back down on their tummies. Okay, so great question. And I would start tummy time as soon as possible. There's no reason why you can't start tummy time as soon as possible. Now, of course, if an infant is crying, you have a newborn baby coming home, you're going to do everything you can to comfort that baby. We don't want that baby crying and upset, especially those first few weeks of life, because at that time, that's when the pons level of the brain is developing. The pons level of the brain is developing between birth to about a month, 2 months, maybe even 3. Okay, so somewhere between birth and about 3 months, that pons level of the brain is developing. That pons level of the brain is the part of the brain that's responsible for feeling safe, secure, and well bonded. At that part of development, everything to that baby is black and white. Okay, I'm alive, and here I am. And if I feel a little pain, I'm going to scream. If I'm cold, I'm going to scream. If I hear a sound, I'm going to startle, right? because this baby hasn't yet figured out, oh, there's some gray in the world. Not everything is black and white. So as you attend to that baby's needs, that pons level of the brain becomes more solidified. Okay, that's the sensory part of that you're going to give that baby, becomes more solidified. They are feeling more safe and secure. Now, when they get to midbrain, which is when they start creeping and crawling, so somewhere between 3 months and older, you're going to be able to distinguish your baby's cries. So infant baby just cries, ah! It's an infant cry. It's a reflexive cry. It's there to say, hey, I'm alive, I'm here, and I need you, right? But as they get a little bit older, you'll be able to distinguish and discern, oh, that cry says, I'm hungry. Oh, that cry says, I'm tired. Oh, that cry says, I'm cold. That cry says, I'm in pain. And you'll be able to distinguish your baby's cries, and you can meet them accordingly. But in that first couple of weeks, you're going to attend to them right away.
Getting latched on, baby getting latched on and that kind of thing. So.
What's that, Sally?
Okay, yeah, I will head on over there and just
Oops.
text me what room number.
All right. Any other questions?
My other question was, what are some you kind of already answered this, but what are some other things to do with them for tummy time? Like other, I don't know. I get like we have like a mirror, we have little, toys in front of her, but what are some ways to get her more, I guess, engaged during tummy time?
Yeah. And great question. So your little infant baby, you're going to want to have some black and white toys. As they get a little bit older, you're going to put some red toys in there. Her favorite toy right now is you.
Mm-hmm.
It's the human face.
Yeah.
And so if she's on her tummy and you are in front of her on your tummy and just looking at her and talking to her and loving her, singing with her, or just put your head down and relax, because mama might need a 5-minute break too, right? It's totally okay. The beautiful thing about little infant babies, it doesn't take a whole lot to make them happy, unless there's something they're struggling with, right? But we don't really need to do a whole lot of entertaining for them. We just need to be there for them and meet their needs and love on them. So singing to them, reading to them. I remember when my baby was little, I would just sit down and write little stories to them. Just write in their little journal. And if I could do it over, at that point, I had them in a bouncy seat. I would never do that again, because that time, my baby could have been on his belly on the floor, right? And so I would put the baby on the belly, maybe do some journaling, have a cup of coffee, just be there for baby, let baby enjoy their time. I would not ever put baby in front of a screen. So babies don't need to be in front of a screen. You don't want all that blue light getting into their system. You don't want to give them artificial stimulation. Keep them away from, they don't need light up toys and all of this. They need an organic, rich environment to engage with. So great question. Any other questions?
Thank you, Jocelyn. I appreciate all the information. To go along with my crazy morning, that was my client that's been contracting all weekend, and contractions weren't even intense yet, but she went to the hospital for a check this morning and she's at 9 centimeters. So I need to go.
Okay. Oh, have a great birth, Sally. All blessings to you and that baby. And so we're going to let you sign off, and then we're just going to wrap up here.
Okay.
And all right.
I apologize, ladies. I'm sorry. This is not the way I wanted to host this meeting, but
It's okay. Good luck.
life happens. So I'm sorry.
Hey, you're a doula. You're doing your job. We're happy for you.
It was great seeing all of you, and I will get Jocelyn to send me the link, and I'll post it on the Facebook page. And if you have any other questions, you can get in touch with her or me. And thanks, ladies.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. All right. So I'm going to stop the recording at this point.